Welcome back. I'm prepared to be bedazzled because today I'm going to be shining light on why working most real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand will never provide a person with enough money to pay his bills. So why does this happen to be the case, you may ask? Without further ado, without further delay, without further procrastination, allow me to demystify the answer to that inquiry right here, right now. Lamentably, much to my dismay, much to my consternation, much to my chagrin, much to my grief, much to my agony, much to my agitation, and much to my irritation, most real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand are often deemed to be dead-end, highly time-depleting, debilitating, minimum wage, dispiriting, unfulfilling, undesirable, harrowing, distressful, brutally wretched, ineffably agonizing jobs that not only dispossess an employee out of almost of a sacrosanct time, but that also do not furnish him with anything close to even one-fourth of a subsistence wage for affording housing. Furthermore, most real private sector employers are keen on not offering any benefits nor any pensions to their real private sector employees. Moreover, a copious amount of real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand have hazardous employee working conditions. So, most companies are keen on minimizing their labor costs. Almost all the profits that companies generate are reserved for their executives, external directors, and shareholders. Working most real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand is unconducive to furnishing a person with enough fiat currency to pay his bills. Most real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand are not configured to allow people who work them to cover the cost of living in the 21st century. Most real private sector employees receive emolument from the real private sector employers in the form of a minimum wage. A minimum wage does not cover the cost of a low standard of living. You cannot attain a low standard of living if your only source of income is derived from a minimum wage. If you receive a minimum wage and you have a negligible amount of purchasing power and have an infinitesimal amount of fiat currency, the cost of living is exorbitant and minimum wage is egregiously low. It is all the more easier for real private sector employers to offer massive compensations to their executives when they are able to minimize their labor costs. It is all the more easier for companies to offer enormous retainer fees to their external directors when they are able to minimize their labor costs. Moreover, it is all the more easier for companies to maximize the wealth of their shareholders when they are able to minimize their labor costs. It would be more cumbersome for companies to offer compensation of over $165 million to their chief executive officer if they were to furnish their employees with remuneration that is above the minimum wage threshold. So, once again, to recapitulate, working most real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand does not provide a person with a means to generate enough fiat currency to pay his bills. And when you work most real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand, it does not allow you to tread down a pathway to attain financial stability nor financial security because it depletes almost all your finite, precious, invaluable, sacrosanct time amid your waking hours, and it causes you to dispossess yourself out of your time to pursue entrepreneurial pursuits. You want to be able to build up sizable recurring revenue streams on autopilot that are not tethered to your time by working in worthwhile entrepreneurial capacities. You are forgoing the opportunity to work in worthwhile entrepreneurial capacities when almost all your waking hours are earmarked towards working employee shifts for real private sector employers who furnish you with compensation in the form of a minimum wage. So, pursue worthwhile entrepreneurial pursuits and forgo working most real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand. Most real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand at most will furnish you with a minimum wage if the real private sector employers do not renege on fulfilling their payroll obligations to their employees, and most real private sector employee jobs based on voluntary demand will also not provide you with any benefits nor any pensions. So once again, I hope that you deem this video to be riveting, captivating, mesmerizing, enthralling, intriguing, engrossing, and amusing. I hope that you're entrenched in the underlying epicness. Thanks for watching. Have a blissful day. Goodbye.